My name is Major General Brooke Leonard. I'm the Chief of Staff at United States Space Command. And I will tell you, I think my first foray into design was as a kindergartner and just being curious. But in all seriousness, I have seen design as an important precursor, and I would say a continual precursor to what I think the military inherently does well, which is strategy, plans, and execution. And I see design as something that we need to do ahead of time. And whether that's reframing the problem, thinking out of the box, and then really looking at what is new and different to be able to take those innovative, large steps to get after the problem sets and the missions that we have. And so I've seen in numerous military organizations over my almost 30 years that, again, we're very good at strategy, plans, and execution. But what really makes strategy, plans, and execution work well and be able to adapt and lead to success is the thinking and designing ahead of that. And so literally from my early days as a young fighter pilot up through my numerous tours inside of the Central Command's AOR inside the Middle East, both as a commander and as a pilot, I've seen that it's really important to kind of think through problems ahead of time, make sure you define the problem well, and again, really look at the realm of divergent possibilities to be able to solve that. And then, based on sort of working through that volume of great ideas, throw it over the fence and get some good strategy, plan, and execution going. Standing up a new organization has given us tremendous opportunity. Like I alluded to before, that's not a natural state inside of what I would call the stereotypical militaries around the world. Our industrial age thinking, which again did a great job of working through the problem sets of World War I and II and kind of beyond, the ability to do a great job at, I think, serial thinking and solving problems step by step, second to none. But overall wise, we need to improve, especially in the information age, especially with peer competitors such as Russia and China. And so it's great. We're standing up, or we've been stood up for 2.5 years, but it still feels like we're standing the command up, and we are. We declared initial operational capability, our commander did, back in 29 August, and now we're looking at striving towards full operational capability. But just like you alluded to, a new organization, the ability not to have paradigms and processes that are very much rooted in how we used to do business has given us a great opportunity to look forward. And so not only in terms of how we build our culture with our personnel across the command, but also how we build our processes and how we educate and train people that we bring into the command. It's just allowed us to have a fresh look. And so people are open to that. I think the other thing is sort of the timing. So not only are we standing up a new organization, and so we have a little bit of that leeway, but also I think we're really coming to the realization that we need that. We're well into the information age, well into the 21st century, and well into this idea that no longer is counterterrorism the fight that we need to focus on, but really the peer competition, great power competition, and the merging of competitive daily operations into gray zone operations and into what we would call conflict or full-on warfighting. And so I think the emergence of the command inside of kind of how the world and the competition space is coming together has really given us a wider opened door than we would normally have as an organization. We have sponsored several different education opportunities. We are fortunate to be right next to NORAD Northcom, which is another combatant command. And we've been able to invite some of their operators and planners and intelligence personnel into design seminars that we've hosted. And so there is that cooperation on the education level. And then to your question, as we interact on the problem solving, strategic planning kind of process, there is an interest on, wow, where'd you come up with those ideas? And, the action officers talk to each other, and there's an excitement to be able to do that. People really see the value at the grassroots level. And so when they see that, they ask, man, what process did you use? They hear design language, divergent thinking, problem reframing, empathy, listening, things like that. And so very much at the action officer level, there's an excitement brewing there. I will tell you that COVID and sort of the restrictions on communication and interaction really slowed us down. We were right on the cusp of just really increasing our capability to design and to use that in our processes. And then COVID hit. And so we took, a big step or pause, if you will, just because of a lot of interactions slowed down for, some very good reasons to slow down the pandemic. But because of that, we're sort of regaining momentum now in that area. But we do see that at the grassroots level. It is starting to catch on. I think it's something that people are hungry for because it really does harness the power of your team. And I think that's something that democratic societies hold as an advantage over communism and some more hierarchical structures, political structures out there. And so the freedom and the trust to bring great ideas to bear is a very exciting thing, and also an advantage that we have as democratic nations. As the chief of staff, I'm really focused on approaching the problem by being consistently inconsistent. And what I mean by that is I need to lead a group of designers and keep that process alive. I also need to keep the strategists and planners and executors obviously on task and doing that. But then I also need to keep them from eating the designers. And so it's just not a natural thing. And so until I think we really fully develop the process and we see the value and we get what I would call probably 2 to 3 years of consistent process application and return on investment, they're not going to be able to stand up on their own. And so I think as leaders leading the design in our organization, we need to be able to talk to the designers and reward them in a different way that we talk to and organize and reward our strategists, planners, and executors, and be able to allow them to work together without us reverting back to old habits, which is let's just jump into the solution before we've defined the problem. And so as leaders, I think it's important for us to be able to do that. And to do that, you have to talk out of different sides of your brains. You have to have different reward structures. You have to have different ways of doing business. You have to have different people that think differently. There's very few people that can swing well across both those areas. And so finding them, getting them in the right jobs, and making sure they stay alive, because it is a volume and longer range fight, and it has less consistent return on investment, and the urgent is always lurking outside the door, ready to suck manpower and resources.